The Empire cannot win. It's a different kind of mission. If it goes up in flames, it will burn very brightly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Perri Nemiroff, and I'm so excited to welcome you to Rotten Tomatoes Watch List, a show where we get to talk to the cast and creatives behind your favorite series, including, of course, Andor. First off, huge congratulations on season 2. Just jaw-dropping, phenomenal work across the board.
Oh, thank you very much.
Let's just quit right there.
Yeah. I promise I have many compliments to dish out along the way. Tony, you'll get my first question here, because one thing that I was thinking of, because season 2 is comprised of 12 episodes. They're blocked off into 3 episode sections. And I was thinking back to when you described season 1 of Andor, and you called it the education of Cassian Andor. So it was making me wonder, did you have nicknames for these 3 episode blocks that make up season 2 as well?
No, it didn't. It's such a big machine as it gets rolling in season 2. I mean, I was reminded today that you have to come up with a fake name for the show, and the fake name that we chose turned out to be it seemed to really fit. It's called Pilgrim, is what we called the show, and you kind of feel that it is a pilgrimage for a lot of different characters on their way to a variety of destinies and through a variety of gauntlets. So I think Pilgrim would be I think it was an apt title.
Fair enough. I'm going to get to those layers in a moment, but first I was curious about the structure of season 2. Did you always know that it had to be segmented this way? And if not, at what point in the writing process did you realize that would best serve the story you wanted to tell?
We were shooting season 1. I was trying to begin to think about what to do. We had agreed that we would do 5 seasons. We were in Scotland. I just was out of quarantine. We were sitting in the backyard of a little hotel having a scotch and going, what are we gonna do? He'll be 60 when we finish. I'll be in a memory-assisted care facility. And it was just impossible. And what are we gonna do? And then, not through any brilliance, but just there it is on the table. It's like, oh, we have 4 blocks of 3 and we have 4 years to carry. And it's like, wow, what if you made each block a year? And I think I literally went upstairs to the hotel room and started sketching and going like, well, what does that do? What if you only came back for a couple days each time? And all the things that you would think would be problems with that, like all the things, there's this negative space. I'm gonna have to write a Bible, this massive month-long Bible. It explains all these things that we thought would be troublesome, all faded away. It was just the best, coolest problem-solving helper we possibly had. And it also made it very exciting to work on.
Well, I'm going to open that up to the entire cast here. I'm so curious to know if your answers differ. And I'll second what you just said. Even though there are gaps in this story, I get exactly what I need on screen in the finished product. But I'm curious for all of you, did you have to do any backstory work, any like journaling or something like that to fill in particular holes in order to tee up the next section of your performance?
Firstly, I would like to say that the way he makes it sound is like it was just nothing. Then I just decided not to do the 5 years and just turn it into 1 year. It's incredible what they managed to do. The problem solving was incredible. But I felt like everything was on the page. Even those gaps were on the page. The way you responded to the characters the year that you come back, like when you come back after the year away, it was all really clear what had happened. So yeah, I didn't have to do any extra work, which was great.
Everyone take the same approach?
Well, the answer was there, and yeah. I think the answer was always there. Like we tend to, and I guess there's no spoilers if we talk about the first block, but Cassian really wants to call home, right? And you understand that home means Bix. That tells you what happened in a year, just with one line, and the necessity he has to connect and to find her, you understand everything that could have happened. But then Tony does another thing with this, the putting together of the show is he gives the tools to actors and directors. He's always there to answer the phone, but then he lets directors work. And then each director had its own way to approach that gap, with us, because we needed to know, what it mean, what does this line mean? How am I going to be dressed? Where am I coming from? What am I referring to? And the work of directors also helped a lot, you know, and each block has that perspective, which is a director finding out what's behind and getting the help from us that probably we know more than he does, you know, and that process was really cool. One really cool thing I came across with, this has been 5 years of our lives. We told 5 years of the lives of these characters, you know, and I think it's been the change and the transformation of all of us, it's been as hardcore as the characters. You know?
Pilgrims.
Yeah.
For real, you really did earn that particular title. Before I get into some specifics here, Tony, Diego, I'll throw this question to you just in regards to the rebellion. And it's something you kind of brought up before, but I don't know, in the end, I was just so incredibly wowed by how many layers of a building rebellion you were able to explore in this series. So I'm going to give you a two-part question about that. For each of you, what would you say was like priority number one, the thing you wanted to convey about a building rebellion at the start of the show? But then also, is there any particular layer that you added along the way that wound up being more central to telling this story fully than you ever could have imagined?
The reason to come on the show was, you know, it was a chance to sort of be a novelist after being a short story writer for so long. And here they say, okay, here's this huge canvas, and we're going to do a show about rebellion, and we're going to use the tone of Rogue. We can do it. You can do what you want, and you got 1,500 pages to talk about a subject that you've been obsessed with your whole life long. So I've been reading and studying this my whole life with no opportunity to ever use it. Like, where would I use that? For me, it was really important that by the time we were done, it was a definitive work about revolution. As many things as I could get in there from all the revolutions that I'd read about. And I mean, in season 2, we introduced, there's a lot of things that are evident in season 1, but in season 2, we introduced propaganda and the use of media. We introduced, you know, large-scale destruction of a planet, not just colonialism. And we also deal with all the factionalism. Like every revolution you read about has multiple factions that are all fighting, you know, the one thing that's pissing them off, but at the end, they're at each other's throats. And I wanted to get in everything I could possibly get in, yeah.
I can't believe how many of those things that you just listed off that you actually serve really well in 2 seasons of television. It's really something else.
And I think this second season focuses much more on that, the love stories behind the revolution, you know? Because yes, the revolution comes with laws, with injustice, with the tons of danger, fear, sadness, but at the end, revolutions happen because love exists, and there's there's a need to give yourself for someone or something, and I think this second season reminds us of that.
And I mean, and seriously, that's a huge theme. Revolutions are usually young people. It's usually young people. It's usually young people that are idealistic. That's some engine on it. And there's been a lot of books written about the Russian Revolution and the romantic attraction for people to get involved in it and all the relationships that come out of it. So he's absolutely right. That doesn't come up enough.
All right, I'll build on the romance next then. So Adria, Diego, and also Denise and Kyle, I want all of you to answer this because I'm so curious to hear how your answers might differ. For your characters, what is the number one thing they want out of a romantic relationship? But then also, what's the number one thing they want to give to their partner?
Oh my God! All right.
I can't wait to hear yours.
Oh, you go first.
I feel really in the middle here. I mean, this is a little bit awkward.
Just keep your head down. You and Perrin have the most successful relationship.
No, I'm in between these two.
Oh my God.
Oh, Dedra wants control, right? I think it's safer for her to have Syril close by. He's the only person who's ever seen her in a moment of vulnerability. I think heading into season 2, it's like she keeps him close, but then she's undone because she responds to things about him. Like, she comes from what she comes from, so she has no example of love, intimacy, affirmation, anything. And so this person comes along and she has this bodily response to him and doesn't quite know what to do with it. So I think having him close starts out as a control thing, but then, she finds herself saying things like, it's good to see you happy. But the way she says it is like, oh God, what is happening in my body? So she feels safe when she's in control because she doesn't know anything else, and she's denied anything else because her belief in the Empire is so strong. She can't see outside it. It's quite sad, actually.
I was going to say my heart right
Let's
now.
all
with that
feel sorry for the
description.
fascist. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
really.
trying to do.
I guess Syril just, wants her. He just wants to keep the lights on. Just one time.
Nobody wants to see that, man.
I think he is desperate for connection, desperate for someone to understand his worth, and specifically with Dedra for transparency. I think that is an issue between them in season 2. He finds that he's not being given full information, and that he might be being used. And coming from such a controlling environment of his upbringing with his own toxic mother, I mean, they say maybe your first marriage is you marry one of your parents. I don't think Dedra is exactly that, but
Close.
But I think he has never ever experienced a relationship before. He's very much a loner, and exploring this intimacy is his unraveling and his undoing.
I wonder if Krennic didn't take over, whether they would have just been okay. They would have just lived together, but Krennic kind of sets off this whole chain of events.
I'm coming back to the Krennic of it all in a minute.
Yeah, okay.
Can you two bring us
It's
to
too real
the
now.
light with this
It's
question?
hard to follow that one. I think Bix wants similar things that she wants to give out is sort of what she wants to receive from a partner. I think she wants a home. She wants to be supportive. She wants to be a part of something, and she wants to be a teammate with someone. I think leaving Ferrix really messed with Bix. At least that's what sort of I imagine. She's like the most Ferrixian woman there is, and then now she's over here and she's sort of fleeing and finding herself with Cassian and everything that she's sort of going through. All she really wants is, a partner and someone to rely on. And it's hard for someone like Bix to be like, I want someone to rely on. And for her to say, I need a little bit of help is the impossible. But she can kind of do it a little bit with Cassian.
And we see that in season 1. Everything has been taken away more than once, everything has been taken away from Cassian since the beginning, since that flashback we see in the first season, and then Ferrix, and then I think he just wants home. He wants to know he doesn't have to run anymore, and he wants to be home for Bix and have a home with Bix and in Bix, and he would love everything to stop. I don't think he's ever had the opportunity to actually enjoy. He hasn't had the chance to enjoy, and he's begging and searching for that. I think, even though it looks quite exciting from the outside, his life is pretty empty. I was saying like, when we meet him in Rogue One, his best friend is a droid. A reprogrammed droid. In fact, because he wasn't meant to be his friend.
It's a good droid, though. It's a good droid. I have so many follow-up questions. First, Genevieve, though, I'm going to come your way. I'm so curious to hear about Mon Mothma's growing, way of influencing the rebellion. What would you say is the biggest difference between how she thinks she could best serve it in season 1 and how she starts to approach doing that in season 2?
We learn in season 1 that she's using her very place of privilege to be effective. I think she's, we learn in season 2 about her history, about this orthodoxy that she's come from. There's been a wink to it in season 1 through her daughter, but we really begin season 2 learning about that history through the culture of this wedding. And so she clearly comes from a place of orthodox privilege. And I think perhaps her and Vel together are really terribly socially conscious individuals, and what they seek to do is to use, certainly what Mon seeks to do is to use her position to be able to give value to those who don't have her voice. I think we see a real journey in season 2 from her home, from her family, from this orthodoxy that she's really wrestling with, and I think that she has wrestled to move from. we see those textured relationships and those complicated mother-daughter and husband-wife relationships, and then we drive to her really using her voice for others, risking it all for others.
That's one of my favorite aspects of the show in general, is seeing that grow and seeing a character that maybe I thought I knew from previous films or even mentions in books or anything else, and then seeing how much you fill out the role. It's really something else. I have so many follow-up questions. Denise, I'll come back your way with a Krennic question. I just love Ben Mendelsohn in that role.
Same.
What is a new layer of your own character that maybe you discovered by getting to work with him, by exploring the pressure that Krennic being present might bring out in her, I guess?
Okay, well, just as an actor, working with Ben Mendelsohn as an actor, like Ben is a live wire. It's extraordinary being in a small, confined space with Ben Mendelsohn. So I learned so much about staying alive in the moment. It's like working with Catherine Hunter. You know, they never make the obvious choice. And so you respond. It's why also doing a lot of work on my own on the script is sort of pointless, because you bring it in front of someone who does something entirely opposite, and if I'm too caught up in what I thought it was going to be, I can't let go. And certainly towards the end, those scenes with him, I mean, I loved the stuff at the beginning when you get to see Krennic say to her, "You've already worked out what's going on here," and I thought, oh, that's such a nice kind of ego boost for Dedra. But she respects the chain of command, but she's annoyed that she has to go and work for this guy. But that stuff at the end, like, he does something, that same seat that I had Syril sit in the first season.
Your first date.
Yeah, our first loving date.
The meet cute.
There's all these collections of finding characters in the place that they had other characters in the first season, you know. And there was a moment with Ben where the doors opened, I'm looking into the reflection, the doors open in that Star Wars sounding way, and then I heard a swoosh, and it's like he flicked the cape. And he came into the room, and honestly, I've never been more scared. But there's something, you're just alive when you work with someone like Ben. And in terms of what I learned about Dedra, I feel like I loved that she stayed true to she didn't suddenly become sycophantic. You don't see her suddenly bowing down to someone like Krennic, as all the others in that room at the beginning would have done. You know, she's annoyed, and she goes to her, you know, pseudo-daddy Partagaz and asks, "Please don't make me do this." But as an actor, I learned so much about staying alive, stay in the moment, don't overthink it, just go with, when you work with great people, go where they go, because it makes you better. So
Doesn't surprise me to hear that with someone like him. Something else.
He's really good fun.
He said exactly the same about you.
Did he really? No, he didn't.
I would believe that.
Oh,
Adria, I have
thank
the
you.
saddest question in the world for you, but it was something that I was thinking about because I re-binged season 1 going into season 2, and so this just became incredibly apparent to me. Bix has been through so much, and it feels like all of that has robbed her of core qualities of her personality. So is there any particular thing about her from season 1 that I guess maybe you either missed playing the most at the beginning of season 2 or kind of felt her chasing to get back?
Ooh. The fact that Bix does go through so much, but yet she's never a victim, I think has been my biggest lesson through these 2 seasons. I think her ability to hold her dignity in every moment and every situation that she's put into has been my biggest lesson, and is something that I really admire from Bix. So trying to go back to sort of who she was then became not so interesting anymore. Then I was like, wow, this character is actually evolving and really growing by getting out of her comfort zone. And it was a big lesson for me. I think in any corner, you hold on to dignity with dear life.
Very, very powerful and well done in the show. Kyle, I'm going to come your way now. I'm going to give you a big 2-part question also.
No, I
but
don't like
actually, wait.
questions.
First, I need to know this. Is there any difference between what Syril wants for the galaxy in season 1 and season 2, or is his vision of, I guess, a perfect world the same in both?
And Tony's listening, by the way.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
He's like, yeah, let's
But we've
see.
got no job with him anymore.
I have the results.
can't
I have the
fire us,
receipts.
Tony.
You can't fire us anymore.
No, no.
You can say whatever.
I have what I came for.
Yeah, totally. We gave it all.
I don't think that much has changed. I think he is still on the trajectory that he has always been on, which is forward motion up the corporate ladder, trying to serve the Empire as best as possible. He's drunk the Kool-Aid since he was a kid, and is desperate to be approved in that structure. And he's flexing his wings a bit because he's got a new job. He's on a new planet, and he is still really believes that he's doing the right thing. And within his own slice of the Empire, he's not aware of what the ISB gets up to. He can idolize them because they represent an extreme version of order and control. But he is operating in a very particular sector where actually it's concerned with justice and order and what's right and wrong, and he's really trying to uphold those values while still having, Cassian in the back of his mind, which is ultimately really driving him. His super objective. He can never let that shame of not capturing him on Ferrix go. So no, I don't think that much has changed for him.
So you were just
season 2.
You were just mentioning that he has a goal of serving the Empire, and I can give you a very similar question that I threw to Genevieve. What is the biggest difference between how he thought he could best serve the Empire in season 2 and how he starts to go about doing it in season 1 and how he starts to go about doing it in season 2?
Well, it's completely different. I mean, his entire station has changed, his environment has changed, his personal life has changed, and that starts to bleed into his work life. And so serving the Empire feels like he's been given, he's kind of given a new persona, almost, actually. He's become an informer, and that's exciting. So he's playing at being spy. And I think that still serves into being the best kind of foot soldier he feels like he can be for his particular lane in the Empire.
There's so I'm like bursting at the seams right now to talk about even more details that we're not allowed to yet. But one thing I can talk about, Diego, is episode 1. You get a pretty significant sequence with a TIE fighter. The first question I was curious if you can answer, and if not, Tony, you probably can, is the TIE fighter that he tries to fly in episode 1 the TIE Avenger model?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then the follow-up to that would be, can you give us some maybe like broad strokes about what it's like playing a scene where you're trying to fly a TIE fighter, but then also maybe, I guess, any specifics that speak to that particular model and the fact that it's, a prototype for what we see to come?
I mean, it was the first, I guess, scene where I approached it like comedy, It's like it's a beautiful piece of comedy, like a guy that is supposed to know everything about the TIE fighter, and he gets there and doesn't know anything, and he has it's a beautiful battle scene. It's gonna be one of the great battle scenes of Star Wars, and he's battling himself, his own ignorance. It's him against his ignorance. And I love it. I love the doing, and I'll tell you one thing. It was the last thing I shot. The very last thing I shot was myself in a gimbal.
Wow.
Like I was like a spoiled child. Like I was playing against Star Wars, but with the nicest toy you can get. And what I remember really well is that it was a beautiful way to say goodbye. And we went with, it was Tony, it was Luke there, you remember? When they explained everything, how it worked, what was the logic behind the controls, what I shouldn't know as Cassian, but had to know as an actor. And it was beautiful. I mean, and there was a production designer explaining to us how that thing actually flies, And it has so many screens, where you and the other thing is like the way you can like actually see your target, and there's no way to miss. That's why it's so cool that he misses for the first 80% of the sequence till he gets it,
But the score on that was so good because you just expect this really big moment where he flies off and then it
it's
goes
so well
backwards.
done. It's
and
amazing.
it's just so funny. What a great start.
It
to the
really
season.
is. Again, I think you created something really special here, and I just love the points that you're making about, a bunch of people coming together for the greater good. So can you maybe each pinpoint something about the story you're telling in season 2 that, inspires you, maybe you're proud of, and you're especially eager for the world to get to experience?
Well, I'll steal something that he's gonna hate me for saying this because he's probably gonna say it.
I'm
but
probably going to steal something you said too.
no,
I'll steal from you.
The non-ideological, non-controversial, I think, part of the show, message of the show, is community. And it doesn't matter what your entry point is to that. The Empire is all about the destruction of community in all of its forms. Tribal, cities, planets, organizations, faith, whatever it is. I don't think there's anything controversial about saying that. And that's finally, in the end, what the show is really screaming about. It was really remarkable to do that. And as he said, I was really unaware until right now, but the 5 years. The fact that because it took 2,500 people to do this, and we really built, I don't want to be utopian, but we built a community that functioned in the way that you always wanted every show you ever worked on to function. And the show was designed by people who had been employees, by Diego, myself, Zana. We built the culture there, but it had its own life. So you're making something about community and you're living it at the same time. And the only way it really works, and finally the achievement is the triumph of that community. It's really, that's really special.
Very well put. Does anyone else want to jump in before we wrap this up? It's a beautiful way to end.
I think let's leave it at that one.
Fair enough. I won't force anyone else to answer. I'm going to say huge congratulations on Andor Season 2. Again, really something else. I hope you're so proud of what you all accomplished. To everybody out there, thank you so much for watching Rotten Tomatoes Watch List. Stay tuned. Andor premieres on Disney Plus on April 22nd.
Yay, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Really well done.
Thank you.